You've spent your entire life being called distracted, too intense, too difficult. But what if I told you that none of that was ever true, and that what you've always believed was your greatest flaw is, in fact, the precise description of one of the most powerful minds in existence? You've reached your 30s or 40s, feeling that something was off, but never quite able to name what it was. It wasn't a lack of intelligence, it wasn't a lack of effort. Yet the world around you seemed to operate according to a manual that was never handed to you. 7 signs that you always believed were failures of character actually have a concrete neurological explanation. And understanding that explanation can completely transform the way you live, work, and connect with others. This isn't about labels, it's about freedom. The freedom to understand your own mind, to stop fighting against your own nature, and to turn what always felt like an obstacle into your greatest competitive advantage. Keep watching. What comes next might be exactly the before and after you'd been waiting for, without even knowing it. ADHD isn't just the hyperactive child at school, it's the adult who loses their keys every single day, who starts 5 tasks and finishes none, whose mind races even when their body is perfectly still. When the diagnosis finally arrives, it divides life into before and after. Decades of confusion, self criticism, and inexplicable failures suddenly have a concrete explanation, and with it, the very real possibility of change. At the heart of it all is hyperfocus, that state in which the brain dives so deeply into something that the rest of the world simply disappears, fueled by dopamine, the chemical currency that this particular brain seeks more urgently and intensely than most. Learning to direct that hyperfocus and to create conscious dopamine triggers is the very first step towards turning chaos into genuine power. The ADHD brain doesn't file information away in neat, organized folders. It operates through associative memory, linking scents, music, emotions, and images in ways that are wholly unique and often surprising. This is precisely why you can recall every word of a song from 15 years ago, yet forget what you went to the kitchen to fetch. And when properly understood, this becomes an extraordinarily powerful learning tool. The challenge arises when this networked way of thinking begins pulling at 10 threads simultaneously, generating information overload and that overwhelming sensation of having a head full of noise without being able to think clearly. But beneath that apparent chaos lies a rare and remarkable ability, pattern recognition, the capacity to perceive connections and emerging trends long before any concrete data appears. In today's world, that is a genuine competitive edge. That restless leg that won't stay still, the pen clicking incessantly, the stimming that appears without warning. This isn't nervousness. It's the nervous system regulating itself in the only way it knows how. Suppressing these behaviors carries a very real cost. It amplifies anxiety and drains energy that should be channeled into the task at hand. Like the difficult handwriting, the inconsistent motor control, the constant restlessness. All of this is part of the very same nervous system that processes the world with far greater intensity than average. Channeling that energy into activities such as martial arts, dance, or simply walking whilst thinking transforms what appears to be a problem into fuel for focus. Anxiety and ADHD walk hand in hand because a brain that processes everything with heightened intensity, one that has spent years being criticized without ever understanding why, naturally develops a state of alertness that never quite switches off. Disorganization breeds anxiety, anxiety undermines focus, and compromised focus breeds further disorganization, a cycle that seems impossible to break but isn't. Consciously regulating the nervous system through diaphragmatic breathing, movement, and focus rituals forms the foundation upon which every other strategy rests. Without it, the brain operates in a state of cognitive survival mode, patching things together with workarounds and exhausting effort simply to appear functional. Breaking free from that mode is precisely what separates merely surviving from genuinely thriving. Music isn't entertainment for this brain, it's neurological regulation. 8D audio, lo-fi, and binaural sounds can shift mental states within minutes, and building specific playlists for different types of tasks trains the brain to enter the right state with far greater ease. Movement works in exactly the same way, walking between tasks, holding meetings on the move, and taking active breaks aren't interruptions to the process. They are part of the process. The insatiable curiosity, the tangential conversations, the leaping between subjects, all of this is the brain seeking the stimulation it requires to stay present, rather than suppressing it, learning to ride that curiosity through windows of free exploration and windows of focused delivery, transforms what is so often labeled a flaw into genuine fuel for creativity and innovation. Creativity, non-linear thinking, multidisciplinary expertise, these are not occasional bonuses. They are direct consequences of everything we've explored thus far. The brain that connects what appears unconnected, that questions the obvious, and that moves fluently between entirely different fields is precisely the kind of mind the modern world needs most. Mind you've spent your entire life believing that the way you are was a flaw to be corrected. And the truth is, it was a superpower waiting to be understood. Figures such as Leonardo da Vinci, Mozart, and Elon Musk demonstrate that the brain the world tried to fit into a box is precisely the one that breaks the box entirely and redefines what is possible. And now, an honest question. How many of the things you've just read did you recognize in yourself? How many years did you spend blaming yourself for something that was never your fault to begin with? The understanding you've just gained isn't meant to be stored away. When it's meant to be applied today in the way you structure your day, regulate your emotions, and direct your energy. You have an extraordinary mind. The next step is learning to use it in your favor if this resonated with you. Oh, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because this was only the beginning.